Yes, welcome into SportsBit Betting Insight today, Tuesday, December 27th. Pauly and Teddy back at it. Deep dive, Jimmy Vaccaro, run down how the books did. Look ahead to the UFC card Friday. We'll touch on that, and also the playoffs are here in college football on Saturday. Huge weekend coming up. We'll go over 3 bowl games, Holiday, Cactus, and Pinstripe Bowl. We couldn't get to it yesterday, the day after Christmas. We start with the NFL recap, Teddy, and bad beats the Saturday night game. Houston wins the AFC South. But once you saw Tennessee falling behind, money started to come in on the Texans because it became a win-and-in scenario. Oh, that was a big missed extra point.
Oh, yeah, and this is one of those games that we try to classify. What's a bad beat? What's a bad bet? What's bad for the house? This was like bad for everybody in one way or another. The missed extra point on Saturday night between the Texans and the Bengals. The difference, obviously, between a point spread cover and a non-point spread cover. Of course, the late shanked field goal for the Bengals, yet another. But it's a really bad result for the house, too. This line opened pick Houston -1. It was there all week until Friday. Then it got bet up to -1.5 after A.J. Green and half the Bengals offensive roster was announced as out. And then after the Titans started losing at the Jaguars, all of a sudden the 1.5s became 2s, 2.5s, 3s, because Houston had the chance to win the division outright. Landed 2. Yeah, bad beat if you had the Texans at a bad number. Bad result for the house. Wild finish in Houston on Saturday night.
Yes, the win-and-in scenario, and also good point. A.J. Green wanted to play, and then they said, well, wait a second, there's no reason to go out there. And they didn't put him out there. Bad bets. The Bills, 17 years without a playoff spot. They probably weren't going to get anyways, but they lose at home to Miami. Ajayi gashes them on the ground. At Buffalo defense, that was an embarrassing performance.
Well, did you see the end of the game when Ajayi hit the big 55-yarder in overtime? The Bills only had 10 defenders on the field. Stephen Gilmore was pulled for the game and placed in concussion protocol, and nobody on the Buffalo sideline seemed to notice. Rex Ryan's quote after the game: "Obviously, this is a rough night. I'll let my reputation stand for what it is, and you can challenge it all you want. Sexy Rexy may well be looking for work next week at this time. The Bills, all that Buffalo money against Miami, yeah, that was a bad bet."
Yeah, a lot of bad bets. Also, the Titans blown out against Jacksonville. Bortles with a strong game.
Oh, my God. This is the first time in Blake Bortles' career that he threw for more than 200 yards in the first half of any game. Of course, he's done it in the second half 8 times. Also, the first player in NFL history. Blake Bortles' NFL history was something that's not bad? Yeah, the first player in NFL history to throw for 300 yards in a game and catch a touchdown pass in the same game. Tennessee, a wrong side loser.
They didn't watch SportsBit. We had Green Bay. We liked them laying the points. Money came in on the Vikings, which we couldn't believe. And then you had the turmoil in the locker room where Newman decided to cover Jordy Nelson and ignore the game plan by Zimmer. Nelson tore him up in the first half. Vikings moved the ball, had some turnovers, but Rodgers, 4 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing.
Yeah, and it was all Minnesota money. Vikings +7, bet down to 6.5. There were lots of 6 out there by kickoffs. Of course, some of that has to do with the season-long stats. And as we talked about last week on SportsBit, the season-long stats for Minnesota fairly meaningless. And when the Vikings are tuning out their coaching staff and freelancing in the secondary against Jordy Nelson, you know it's going to get ugly. I mean, Minnesota won the yardage battle, but 5 Green Bay scoring drives of 21 yards or less after all of those Vikings miscues.
There's another one. I mean, come on. The Rams can't be laying 6. Cut it out.
Yeah. They looked like they were going to cover. You know, they were up by 2 scores late in the fourth quarter. Here's a quote from Rams cornerback Tremaine Johnson. "The last few possessions, it seemed like we gave up. The whole team, including myself." That's giving up when you're in the midst of what? How many games in a row have the Rams lost now? I don't even know how many they lost. At home, up 2 scores against the worst team in the league, and you give up? Ooh, that's not good. Chip Kelly's quote cracked me up too, man. "What you saw today is what we see every day. There's an energy and a spirit to them in terms of how they practice and how they train." Of course, we didn't see that much of that during the 13-game losing streak. They have not come up on the right side of things, but that doesn't mean that they let that affect them. Yeah, San Fran, come from behind win. And L.A., yeah. I mean, they were bet as high as -6. Bad bet on the Rams.
A little college here, too. Christmas Eve. Middle Tennessee was bet up to 7.5. At Hawaii, they led 14-0 early. Rolovich, excellent job. Hawaii thumps them and scored 28 unanswered at one point, 4 straight touchdowns, and they routed Middle Tennessee.
Oh, they sure did. I mean, Hawaii, 3 punts and 0 turnovers for the entirety of the game. Every other thing, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Blue Raiders did not come to the islands with the appropriate focus.
And then yesterday, the Mississippi State money came pouring in up to 15. They won the game. They get the blocked field goal. Miami of Ohio with nice effort. Ragland, good quarterback, looking to close the season with 7 straight wins. Miss State sleepwalks and gets lucky.
Yeah, I mean, Miami had the field goal block at the end of the game. Let's not forget, Miami also came away with nothing on an earlier fourth quarter drive deep into Bulldogs territory when they went for it on 4th down. They didn't get the straight up win, but they sure got the money. Mississippi State, that was a bad bet.
All right, bad for the books. A disaster last night. The over, never in doubt with the Lions and the Cowboys, bet up from 41.5 to 46.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were 46s and a halves out there. And we're talking about a 4.5, 5-point move for a single event national TV game on Monday Night Football. You know the books took it on this one. I mean, they took it right up the wazoo on this one. The over, a done deal well before halftime. Des Bryant and company made certain of that bad result for the books.
And bad for the books. It continues. The Patriots, my God, Jets a no-show again. Patriots bet up to 17. I guess if you had the under, you like what Todd Bowles did. I don't think that's happened in 20 years. 41-0 at the 10-yard line. 6 minutes left. He kicks the field goal.
Well, and of course, tons of New England money. The Patriots were bet up from -14 to -17. I guess Bowles avoided the shutout, which he did. But the Patriots, again, best record in the NFL, best point spread record in the NFL, most public team cashing tickets every week. And I found an interesting quote from Tom Brady. He said the foundation was laid for that game on the plane ride back after the win against the Broncos the previous week. We said, quote, look, we're finishing strong. You know, the pedal to the metal. Last year, we didn't finish strong. We didn't like the way things ended. New England certainly looked pretty strong on Saturday against the Jets.
Hey, the Sharps cash a ticket finally. For the first time in over 2 months, they cash a ticket on the Browns. The Browns win a game.
Yeah, wise guy money on Cleveland again, +6 down to +4. And we got to call it. Cleveland didn't win the game as much as San Diego lost it. And it's a fitting end to the dismal season for the Chargers. Another Josh Lambo field goal miss.
Bad for the books continues. Atlanta does it again. Big road win, trying to get the 2 seed.
Oh, yeah, when you start to look at some of the Falcons' numbers, I mean, these are historic numbers right now. They've come away with points on 52.4% of their drives this season. Nobody else in the NFL is above 45%. Atlanta's at 52.4%. The league average is about 35.7%. All right, going back to 2001, the only team to score more frequently on their drives, the 2007 Patriots, that legendary offense with Randy Moss and Brady in his prime. And even the Patriots, only 52.7 compared to 52.4 for Atlanta. This Falcon team is putting some pretty impressive numbers up. Matt Ryan, single-season NFL record, touchdown passes to 13 different receivers. And, of course, what does this mean? It means the Falcons have stayed healthy. They have their offensive starters have combined to miss just 10 games for the season, most of which come from the tight end Jacob Tamme, who is in a 3 tight end rotation. It's a meaningless injury. The 5 offensive linemen have played through all 15 games without missing one, on pace to go 80 for 80 in terms of starts. That's meaningful when it comes to an offense clicking, and that's what the Falcons are doing right now. -2 up to -3. Bad result for the books.
And a lot of overs over the weekend, especially the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game on Christmas, shootout, the Washington-Chicago game, and Miami and Buffalo. Heavy money to the over there. Not good.
Yeah, Pittsburgh-Baltimore bet from 44 up to 46.5. That cashed with ease. The Bears-Redskins was a sweat a little bit at the end after Barkley threw a pick in the end zone with, about 4 or 5 minutes left. But there was one last Bears drive, and that was followed by the quick, meaningless big play TD from the Redskins. They were trying to run out the clock. Ends up with 62 points flying over the total. Again, a bad result for the books.
And also yesterday, college football, there was a lot of NC State money. Now, at CG Technology here in Las Vegas, they took a lot of big bets on Vandy money line. No, sir. NC State, most people bet NC State laid the points, and they blow out Vandy.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was -3.5 bet up to -6. I mean, when Vandy falls behind, they just have no hope of coming back. Look, That's something we talked about on Sportsbet last week.
Good call by you. That quarterback stinks. Good call by you.
Yeah, I mean, Shermer, with 3.4 yards per attempt and 3 picks. Finley, 7.8 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's all you need to know about that game. Bad result for the books.
All right, this was tough to watch. You saw this over the weekend. The injuries. Carr out for the year for the Raiders. Now it's McGloin. They're still in position for the 2 seed. How about McGloin against Savage in a playoff game? That's a possibility. And then the Titans lose Mariota. Castle starts the finale.
Yeah, both teams I downgraded in the range of a field goal. I downgraded Oakland a little bit less. McGloin can play. He's no ace, but he can play. We've seen it in the preseason. I felt bad for Donald Penn, the left tackle, the Pro Bowler for Oakland. Quote, I slip on one play. I ain't never got a quarterback hurt in my whole career. I'm just upset right now. The first sack of the year that he allowed, and it knocks his QB out for the season. That's so Raiders right now. As for Mariota to Castle, I mean, Mariota may not have Carr's reputation yet. When it comes to red zone success, this kid was phenomenal all year long. And I'll tell you what, Tennessee believes in him in a way that I don't know they're going to believe in Matt Castle. Matt Castle's been a bad backup everywhere he's been since that one season, since he went to New England, since he excelled when Brady got hurt in New England. But with Tennessee knocked out of the playoff picture, it's not going to matter long term anyway.
Yep, RG3, Cody Kessler, and also with Seattle. Wow, Lockett goes down out for the year, and Walls left with an injury. A big surprise there as Seattle lost at home. One NBA note, Teddy. ESPN stats and info. What do we have?
Yeah, I thought this was worth putting in today's show. Simply that it's one of these stats that it just stands out like a sore thumb. Since LeBron James returned to the Cavs, this is just straight up. This is an ATS, but it's worth noting. They're 129-43 in games that he plays, 75% of the time, or 75% wins. And they're now 4-18 straight up when he doesn't play. That's a winning percentage of less than 20%. Just something to be aware of when you're looking at those. He's going to play, he's going to sit results for LeBron James. Not only LeBron sits, the Cavs sit every time LeBron sits, at least on a pretty regular basis.
All right, good to be back. Regular show coming up. Deep dive, Jimmy Vaccaro, rundown how the books did, and preview college football playoff, and touch on the UFC card on Friday. Ronda Rousey in action. Up next, big game breakdown. 3 bowl games coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. We start with the Holiday Bowl. Tonight, San Diego, Washington State 10, 61 the total against Minnesota. And I don't know what to do with Minnesota here. Remember, this line was, 6.5. Then the suspensions, the possible boycott, they call that off. They're behind in prep time. In practice, Washington State gets a boost as Falk announces he's coming back. He was the 4th quarterback on some big boards out there by the draft experts. What do we do with Minnesota? First off, Teddy.
All right, let's start with this. I believe the line move following the suspensions is warranted. There's sometimes you'll see some overreactions with suspensions and some big line moves where it's not going to affect the team on the play. Well, for Minnesota, not 1, not 2, 3 key members of their secondary. Antoine Winfield, Antonio Chenot, Keontae Harden. Those 3 guys will not play. And when you're facing the air raid offense, look, Minnesota's going to have a hard time against Mike Leach's playbook if they had all hands on deck. Without all hands on deck, with a secondary that's missing 3 key pieces, it's not like they faced many air raid top offenses in the Big Ten this year. And, Washington State, it's a difficult simulation for the Gophers in practice. They don't have the scout team quarterback or the speed at wideout to effectively simulate what Washington State is going to try to do in this ball game. So you put those factors in with the suspensions, with the lost practice time. That's a big concern for me for the Minnesota side of the equation.
It's an underrated Washington State defense. Will Minnesota be able to move the ball?
Well, I mean, Mitch Leidner he battled some injuries this year, but he was basically healthy. What do you have? 7 touchdown passes to 12 interceptions. 56% of his passes were completed. I mean, we're talking about a senior QB who just didn't get a whole lot better during his collegiate career. Doesn't have a whole lot of downfield weapons to throw to. If Minnesota's going to hang around in this game, they're going to need to be able to run the football. That's something they've done effectively all year. But as you mentioned, this year's Cougars, they weren't a one-trick pony. We've seen Leach's teams in the past. All they could do was throw the football and try to outscore teams. Washington probably had their best defense against the run of the Leach era, and probably their best special teams too. And throw in the fact they were able to run the football, and of course Falk. When you compare these two quarterbacks, there's no comparison. Falk 71% completions, 37 to 10 TD to INT ratio. One team is capable of making big plays. The other team, not so much. So if the Gophers are going to hang around in here, in my mind, side and total are definitely related in this game. If you like Minnesota, you're not expecting a shootout. The underdog and the under correlate in this one.
Very good. Second game, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Cactus Bowl tonight from Phoenix. Baylor against Boise State. Boise's been in this setting many times. They're familiar with the venue. 7.5, 67.5 the total. I'm surprised Baylor took the bowl game. The coaching staff's gone. They had the long losing streak to end the season. Another running back. I know it's all McCaffrey and Fournette. Linwood's not going to play. Get ready for the NFL draft. This is it's a dumpster fire with Baylor.
Well, I thought like Boise was great this year, but let's talk about the Baylor side of the equation. We talked Miami O when they entered the first team to ever enter a bowl game after starting the season 0-6. Well, how about this? Baylor's the other end of that equation. No team has ever entered a bowl before in the midst of a 6-game losing streak. And when you think about everything that's gone on in Waco over the last couple of years, I honestly wonder if these kids want to be here. I am not sold on taking Baylor, and that's very much reflected in this point spread. You have the situation where, okay, they have a new coach, but he's not here yet. You have an outgoing coach who's just going back to retirement in Jim Grobe. Are they going to have a little bit of fun? It's a warm weather site. I'm not convinced that it's a scenario where Baylor is going to be fully focused on the game. But what this team needs more than anything probably, just to relax a little bit and have some fun playing football, they might be able to do that in this type of scenario. And if they do that, maybe they can hang around and cover a number. Because like I said, I'm not sold on Boise being elite.
No, you're right about that. They really struggled covering big point spreads. They actually had a rough time doing it at home. The inability to beat Air Force again and handle the option. They lost to Wyoming in a game they had a 14-point lead. So they had a ton of issues. And I'm surprised there was some people. Harsin interviewed for the Oregon job. He stayed, but I was surprised that people were hot after him, considering that was another down season by Boise standards.
Yeah, exactly, by Boise standards. But when you're here in Vegas, you get a good sense of how good Boise actually is in their really good years. And out in the mainstream America or back east where some of this stuff happens in terms of who's good or who's not in college football here, they don't notice the nuances that Boise was down a little bit this year. This is what they notice, that Boise's 7-3 straight up in their last 10 bowl games. That they've blown out their opponent, they've won each of the last 2 years in their bowl. What, the 55-7 over Northern Illinois in the Poinsettia Bowl last year. We know that Boise takes their opportunities versus Power 5 conferences seriously. 5 straight-up wins in a row versus teams from the Power 5 teams. We know they've got a good quarterback in Brett Ripien. We know they've got a running back in Jeremy McNichols. I mean, McNichols had 27 touchdowns this year. Baylor's defense, it's vulnerable. But I'll tell you what I'm doing with this game. Absolutely nothing. I'm going to talk about it. It'll probably be on the TV. But pre-kickoff, I'm not even thinking about making a wager on this one.
Yes, maybe you get involved in-game if looks like the wheels are coming off early for Baylor. Last game, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Wednesday afternoon, Pinstripe Bowl, Yankee Stadium. Pitt against Northwestern. Pitt 5, 64.5 the total. 2 o'clock Eastern with the kick in that one. We got an OC on the move here, Teddy.
Well, we got all kinds of stuff on the move here when it comes to Narduzzi and Pitt versus Northwestern. But, let's start with what Pat Narduzzi came to Pitt to do. This team, everyone's talking about, Pitt's defense. Narduzzi, a defensive guy. that defense is going to work well in the Big Ten. And, he's got a Big Ten opponent for his bowl game. But you know what? That defense all year has struggled against teams that spread the field, not north-south, but east-west, multiple wide receiver. He's had a problem with mobile quarterbacks all year. So, yeah, he's going to get a Big Ten opponent, but Northwestern, the only time this offense worked this year is when they picked up the tempo and spread the field. And Clayton Thorson started throwing the ball all over the place. And that's something that Pitt had problems with all season long. They allowed over 4,000 passing yards on the campaign. I mean, remember that Syracuse backup quarterback threw up 668 yards against them at 61 points. They lose Matt Canada in terms of the offense coordinator being gone. The playbook's already in place, but, this is a team that I've got concerns about in the favorites role. That defense just isn't able to come up with a whole lot of stops.
Well, remember, we talked about this all year. They were betting this game under based on tempo and pace, but they were flying over. Pitt went 11-1 to the over this year. Connor's second in the ACC in scoring with 20 total touchdowns, and we'll see what the changes make here. But I'm not getting involved with the Pitt game under when you see. I mean, it's one thing to barely get over the total. I mean, they were playing shootouts every single week.
Every single week, and again. One of the things, and I got a great tweet about it, a nice tweet about it, showing some of the books that we had recommended over the year. We talked about the Sharp sports betting book by Stanford Wong. That was the King Yao book that we talked about as well, to weighing the odds in sports betting. And they talk about what the wise guys, what the betting markets look at. And the betting markets are reacting to pace more than execution when it comes to offense. So all year long, Pitt played at a slowing pace, and their offensive execution was off the charts, and the defensive execution, in terms of negatively, was off the charts. And the wise guys, look at the pace. They can't be betting. They're under every week, and every week they got crushed. We'll see under money in this game before kickoff. I'm confident of that. But as you mentioned, Pitt, not a team I'm excited about playing under very often. That being said, we will get back to this game when it comes to play of the daytime.
All right, up next, the deep dive. 5 great minutes with Jimmy Vaccaro, bookmaker for over 40 years. It's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts and shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Time for the deep dive. Jimmy Vaccaro, bookmaker for over 40 years. He's a legend in Las Vegas. If you're ever in Las Vegas, stop in and see him at the South Point. Follow him on Twitter at Jimmy Vaccaro. All right, were you busy for Christmas?
Yeah, it was, and it was a little surprising. We obviously just about kept exactly what our handle would be on a regular weekend. Obviously, now with all the NFL games moved to Saturday, just people forgot that it was Saturday instead of Sunday. But they did show up. They came in a little better during the course of the last hour. Usually, we're busy 2 hours prior, but about an hour. But I cannot say enough for people. They're a legion. They enjoy this, and they come by and they had a great time. And Christmas, and actually a lot of them actually brought their families, and so the kids went to eat, and the dad would put his bets in. So I would think that it'd be successful, the entire industry, if they told you Saturday was very impressive, not having NFL games on Sunday.
The Browns finally win a game. The Sharps cash a ticket, Jimmy.
Yeah, we did good. Obviously, the key games, the Browns were obviously a good game. Seattle was a monster game. But as you always ask me, my friend, what's a silent assassin? It was the Tennessee Titans. We couldn't stop taking money on anything to do with them. Straight bets, parlays, teasers, money lines. And that game just set us off like we were really in good shape. The Browns was good. But then the Titans wiped out what I consider most of them. Then it was an absolute cleanup with Seattle. So I can't speak for anybody else. Didn't speak to anybody, but I would think it was a very, very good Saturday with the NFL, especially knocking out the key games.
Oh, thanks for that info. How about some bad results? Did you get some Vikings money? How about the Packers winning and covering, and the Patriots destroy the Jets?
Well, the Patriots was a joke. I mean, it's fairly obvious that there's just a lot of trouble going on in New York, and very apparent that Belichick does not change his mode of what he does. 24-0, 34-0. Brady's in the football game, and they're trying to win. But let's give the Jets some credit. They were down 41-0. They did kick a field goal, right?
Yes.
I mean, once again, here we go. Why do you waste your time? But it's fairly obvious that, especially now, who throws the towel in with the Jets? Looks like they threw it in maybe in the middle of the season. But I am very impressed with the Patriots. We have to understand that, like, this guy he's miraculous. I mean, the coach and Brady. It just doesn't matter who they plug in. I mean, we kept talking about. Remember Gronkowski? It might have been the only offensive player other than the quarterback who would move a line 1.5 he played or didn't play. It seems like they don't miss him a beat. Now, surely they want him in the lineup, but the credit goes to the organization of Belichick. They are simply monsters.
There was a lot of games went over, and the Buffalo game, the Pittsburgh game, and the Redskin game took a lot of money to the over. Did that hurt you? How bad was that? And also the Saturday night game, Houston Falls 2.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. It actually, with the totals, it actually worked out relatively well because we got real lucky. I mean, there was a lot of money with the Chiefs game over last night. With the under last night. The Smarts and even a lot of the teasers were within naturally. With that game going over, so the totals didn't hurt up. Now, naturally, we wouldn't take parlays to the Patriots to the over because you're laying 17 points. And those type of situations, when anytime you get a point spread that basically, 3 times the amount of what the total would be, the correlation parlay works too much an advantage to the people who understand the racket. And like favorite and over, dog and under, they usually stick around 65 to 68%. So we don't give those away. So it really didn't hurt us that much. Considering one thing before I forget, my friend, unbelievable handle for the Golden State Cleveland game on Sunday. It was just I said to myself, this is like an NFL game. And then we opened the game to Golden State, which I thought maybe the game would have come picking, but it came 2, and we were bet up to 3.5, and naturally with the 15-2 run out, that was almost like a 60% decision of what a big-time NFL game was. So a lot of people showed up to bet that. So that started us off good because that was an 11 o'clock Las Vegas time. But a big decision, and obviously to some degree the NBA, who knows, as we've said a million times, my friend, just tune in the last 2 minutes. I mean, the 15-2 run went from a big-time winner for Golden State to a big-time loser for them. So that's the NBA, and it was enjoyable.
Yep, incredible. All right, here we go. The Monster Bowl game's coming up. How's the action and handle been with the title matchups you put up? And we got the semifinals Saturday.
As anticipated, what we're getting is Alabama money. We took a lot of big plays when we opened it up 13.5 and pushed it up to 15.5 and 16 at a given time. But what we're finding out also, it's almost becoming like a Super Bowl where they're betting the point spread up. That people are taking the dog or taking on the money line. So it's like it might wind up one of these games where you want it to fall between like 1 and 13 because there'll be definite money on the money line to the underdog here because there always is. As good as Alabama is, naturally anybody has a chance to lose. So I deem this game like a very mini Super Bowl in the way that people approach it to bet. They will lay the point spread. They will utilize them in teasers, but there'll be a lot of people thinking that obviously those teams can win and take it on the money line. It's going to be interesting. We are down to 3 and could go to 2.5. There's been plenty of money on Clemson. We'll see how far it goes from here.
Okay, and one more. The event bettors will be in town. Obviously, New Year's, Week 17, the NFL, the semifinals in college, and Friday night you got a UFC card, and Ronda Rousey's back.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better if you're a bookmaker this time of the year. Our guy, again, he showed up the other day, and he went down with Seattle. So, he's 4-1 so far, but he actually gave a little bit of a chuckle when he come to the window, knowing that it looked like, he might have had a chance, didn't have a chance, but he was out early, even though Seattle took care of a lot of other things. He had the Titans on two of his big plays, so he was basically just trying to get even for the day and end up losing the Seattle game. So we did get him on that one.
Always good to talk to you. Happy New Year. I'll see you soon. Thanks for 5 great minutes, sir.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Jimmy Vaccaro every week, deep dive on Tuesdays right here on Sportsbit. But now it's Play of the Day time. Where are we going today, Pauly?
Hey, wait a second. A couple days off, you grow a beard? What's that all about?
Yeah, well, it's Christmas time. I'm going to give it a couple of days. My face hurts. I know it looks ugly. I know I look old. It's not going to last long. Promise. First time I sweat, it'll be gone. But may well be gone on January 1st. We'll see.
Yes, all right. Loaded week coming up on Sportsbet. Week 17 in the NFL. A lot of games don't mean anything with these playoff spots locked up. College football semifinals on Saturday, and we continue with all the bowls coming up tomorrow. Betting number 243. By the way, 41-24 on the football season. Betting number 243, Northwestern plus the 5 of the 6 Pinstripe Bowls played. The dog has covered the last 5. The inaugural contest in 2010 was a pick'em. Pat Fitzgerald, a winning spread mark in the bowl games. Narduzzi, couldn't game plan against Navy's option last year. Didn't like that. They ran all over him with 44 points. We give the edge to Fitzgerald, so we'll take the points in this one. Betting number 243, Northwestern in the Pinstripe Bowl, Wednesday afternoon. That'll do it. We're back Wednesday. Thanks for checking out Sportsbet. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.